I'm on a journey to turn my favorite hobby into a successful business. But running a business while working full-time and trying to raise a family is a real struggle, especially because of the recent challenges I faced and mistakes I've made along the way. Hey there, Harley here with HD Cards and Collectibles, and I made the very stressful decision to start my Pokemon business in January of 2025. And in today's video, I'm going to walk you through my 6th month in business, June 2025. I'll go over all the big events and decisions I've made, any accomplishments I had, any challenges I faced, mistakes I made, and how I overcame them, my income, expenses, and profitability for the month and quarter, and lastly, my goals moving forward. So with all that in mind, let's get into it. A few big events happened in June, and the first of which was that I made my largest website sale to date for $1,647.30. And unfortunately, this isn't necessarily a good thing. If you saw some of my previous videos, you would understand why, but we'll get into those details a little bit later. The next couple events were huge though. I was able to collaborate with Brian from Pokémon, and I did an interview with him on June 4th. If you didn't catch that, I'll throw up a card right here for you to check it out. I was also able to collaborate with Dan from Catch 'em All Collectibles. Now, our interview ran a little long because we kept going on some tangents, especially regarding investing. But if you're interested in that interview, that one will be here as well. So be sure to check it out. The next big event was actually a specific decision I made due to the large order I mentioned previously, ending in a chargeback. But I'll get into the details there a little bit later when I go over my struggles. Anyways, because of the chargeback, I decided it was probably time to part with most of my English sealed collection. I sold it all to a local card shop, which offered me really great rates on it, and this helped make up for the loss just a little bit. It also gave me some cash to start buying collections again. Speaking of which, I bought a collection towards the end of the month, and I sold through most of it just within the first week of me listing the cards. I spent about 10 hours or so over the course of a few days, sorting through the collection and bulk purchases I had made, and listing them all on TCG Player and eBay. I definitely had some good and some bad moments in June though. So let's go ahead and review my wins. My first big win of the month was getting my first sponsor with TC Guardian Protectors. If you've watched any of my videos previously, you'll know that I'm an affiliate for them, and I really love their product. They make these fantastic little craft cardboard protectors that are amazing for protecting your cards during shipment. Now, if you'd like to check them out, please use the affiliate link down in the description for 5% off your order. The next big win I'm going to just lump together and say it was interviewing Brian and Dan. They're both super successful in their own Pokemon business niches, and it was fantastic getting to chat with them. My third big win isn't very big, but I set up a Wise account for purchasing Japanese products, so I wouldn't have to pay the PayPal goods and services 5% fee. My fourth big win really hits home for me, and although I didn't complete it in the month of June, I'm going to go ahead and just lump it in because I waited until the June numbers were done, and it's based off of those. Anyways, I made my very first charitable contribution to Nationwide Children's Hospital Foundation. We raised a total of $1.13. It would have been a lot more if the big purchase didn't result in a chargeback, but here we are. But disregarding that for a second, the goal is to make one charitable donation every single quarter. So we'll just save up all of the donation earnings and give it all at once, with the caveat that I won't give less than $5. So $5 will be the minimum donation this time and in future times if I don't earn more than that. That way, if we go 3 months without selling much of anything, I'm still giving something. and it's not a ton right now, but I hope to scale it up as the business grows. And the last big win of the month is that June was my largest revenue month year to date. And this was all in spite of the struggles I faced and mistakes I made. So let's get into those now. The first major struggle is a bit of a doozy. I mentioned it briefly earlier in the video, and I've also done a standalone video about it. The TLDR of the chargeback is that a customer made a very large purchase of $1,647.30. First, I made sure that the shipping and billing info matched, then I requested a copy of the customer's ID, and that matched everything, and then I reached out to Wix Payments, and they didn't offer any support really. And then so I finally decided to ship the cards, only to have the customer eventually issue a chargeback with this credit card company. Everything is still ongoing, but I'll release an update video once everything is resolved and finalized. I have no idea when that will be, but I will keep you in the loop as much as I can. And if you're interested in some of the finer details, watch this video up here. The second major struggle I faced was a mistake that I've been making over the last several months, actually. I believe that I've been investing too heavily into sealed Japanese product. Moving away from what was working with TCG Player and eBay has set my business back immensely. And in fact, most of the business debt I currently have is because I keep importing Japanese products and I'm having trouble selling through them quickly enough. And along with not being able to sell it quickly enough, there are some boxes I've been holding on to since February or March, and the prices have dropped since I bought them. My original solution was going to be to split my Japanese product between TCG Player and my website and try to sell through some of it that way. But another solution ended up falling into my lap, so to speak. But that just happened within the last couple days. So if you want to know more about that, you'll have to watch my July recap video. It's definitely interesting. The next mistake I made is a little bit smaller, but it's a result of the major step back I took from my business. I bought a collection just before I took that break in March. And because I didn't get all the cards listed, some of them dropped in value by the time I finally listed them here recently. So now I'm making a very conscious effort to list cards as quickly as possible when I buy collections. That way I can churn through them quickly and roll that cash into more collections to continue building my inventory. And the last struggle that seems to be a pretty constant thing is time. My personal life has been very busy recently, so I've been struggling putting enough time into the business like I'm supposed to, and even when I am spending time on the business, I'm having trouble prioritizing certain things and making the most of my time. But like I said, I have been able to find enough time to at least turn a profit this month. So with that said, let's get into the income, expenses, and profit for the month. But before we do that, I would just like to take this time to thank you. Thank you for all the love and support you've shown me and the videos recently, especially my most recent video about the chargeback. The helpful comments and the nice words of encouragement were super helpful, and they really went a long way to make me feel just a little bit better about the bad situation. So thank you all so much for that. Also, if you're finding this peek behind the curtain helpful or informative at all, or at least a little bit entertaining as I share some numbers with you, please consider liking and subscribing. And if you can think of any topics you'd like me to cover in the near future, please leave a comment down below. Now let's get to those numbers for real this time. First, I'll go over my income for the month. I'll just be listing net numbers this time, but I will tell you the total gross there at the end. And then after that, we'll go over my expenses for the month, and then finally my profitability for the month, the second quarter of the year, since that just wrapped up in June, and the total for the year to date so far. I had a large in-person sale of a lot of the sealed English products I was keeping to collect. Now, I bought these all well before I started the business, so I don't think I can claim those as expenses without tracking inventory. as far as I know. But I made a total of $1,940.20 net after fees for that sale. Next, we'll review my sponsorship, affiliate commissions, and brand deals. I made $486.24 after fees. On TCG Player, I had 78 sales for a total of $683.20 net after fees. And on eBay, I had 3 total sales for a total of $75.40. I also had 1 website order for a lot of product that gave me $0. Fun. Which brings my net total to $3,186.62. My total gross revenue, however, was $3,424.04. Now let's get into expenses. From my highest expense to my lowest expense, this is what my June looked like. On inventory, I spent $2,265.49. On equipment, I spent $166.24. On postage, I spent $141.22. On software, I spent $64.33. And I spent $31 on other expenses. For a grand total of $2,668.28 in expenses. Our expenses in June were lower than our revenue, which means we had our second ever profitable month, for a total of $518.34 in profit. And this little bit of profit does help mitigate the deficit of Q2 just a tad. But we're still sitting at negative $5,433.85 for Q2. This negative quarter combined with negative Q1 of negative $1,800.24, which leads to a total operating loss of negative $7,234.09. The loss would be noticeably smaller if I didn't get hit with the chargeback, but it is what it is. Alright, I swear that's the last time I'll bring up the chargeback. It's just still very frustrating. Also, this large loss is starting to make me a little bit nervous, which is exactly why I've pivoted back to TCG Player and eBay, and why I sold off almost all of my sealed English collection. I will make sure to keep you updated as I navigate through things and make future decisions. And with that said, let's go ahead and get into my goals for the future. Reflecting back over my business, I have made several missteps and mistakes throughout the first 6 months, and luckily none of them have been fatal, but they've definitely set everything back. I had a very strong start to my business. I generated quite a bit of revenue through TCG Player and eBay in a relatively short amount of time, and I hit level 4 seller on TCG Player in just 18 days. But I took a step back from all of that to try to pursue my goal of selling sealed Japanese product on my website. Little did I know that this wouldn't work out well and lead to a major decline in my business. This, coupled with me stepping back from the business for a period of about 2.5 months, and then me coming back and doubling down on the sealed product, really crippled the business. And in an attempt to recover, I've put a little bit of personal money into the business, and I've pivoted back to what's working, as well as selling off some of my personal sealed collection. I'm hoping that all of these steps will turn things around, and I'll start to be profitable. But, like I've said, I'm definitely no expert when it comes to Pokemon business. I don't try to be some all-knowing guru or anything like that. It's just me doing my best. And the mistakes I've made are definitely proof that I'm not perfect. But my hope is that by sharing these, it'll help you avoid the same missteps that I've made. Which brings me to my first goal. My first goal is to continue posting once a week here on YouTube. And I have some good content planned, so I hope you're excited. My second goal is to still do at least one interview every month. And I want to interview different Pokemon card business owners to get their perspective and their tips for all of you guys. My third goal is to hit $40,000 in revenue by the end of the year. And my fourth goal is to get out of business debt. I have about $6,700 of debt on a 0% interest business credit card, and that interest rate will change probably in January of next year. So I still have a little bit of time to pay it off, but definitely not a ton of time. And my final goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube by the end of the year. Now, if you're interested in seeing my journey from the very beginning, be sure to check out this playlist up here.